So we're going to be doing something called Blackout Poetry. And Blackout Poetry is when you take a page of text and you put a block around particular words that you want to keep, and then it changes the meaning of what's on the page. So in this case, I've blocked out the first time he walked in a garden of pure white. He gathered orange blossoms, a symbol of deepest love everywhere. And that's completely different from what the original text is about. Then after you've blocked out the parts that you want to keep of the text, you're going to select an image to put on top of it. And it can be an abstract image. It could just be like a lighthouse, or it could be a person's portrait. In this case, I'm using a face and transferring it onto the page. And to transfer, you could use a light box, or you can shade over the whole thing with pencil, and that would become a transfer where when you place it down and press hard, the image wherever you're pressing will show up on the page. So then the next step was to add color to it, and I used watercolor pencils, and you can see that I have some of the text blocked out. So this one says, she walks in beauty like the night, dark and bright, one shade, one ray, in every dwelling place, so soft. And so the next thing I'm going to do is wet the watercolor pencil that's on here and pull it into the text just a little bit to let it cross over and maybe even cover some of that area where the text I'm keeping is. And you don't want to have your brush too wet, you just want it damp. So you need to have a paper towel near you so that you can dry it off after you've dipped it into the water. And be careful about darker lines that are near the part that you're doing. You want to be careful to go up to the line but not touch it unless you want it to bleed in. Like in this case, if I go over this area, I can make it bleed into the purple. And that gives it a nice blended look. Again, my brush is not very wet at all, it's just slightly damp. Trying to keep the whites of the eye white. And I'm gonna rinse my brush and dry it on the paper towel. And when I dry it, I'm also rotating it on the paper towel. I'm bringing it a little closer so you can see. So when I dip it in the water, I scrape it on the edge and I roll the brush. So I'm twisting it to keep my point. And that will make it so that even if I have a larger brush, I can still get a very detailed area with the tip. And then I do want to be careful about switching back to the purple now, because now I've got brown on the tip of my brush. So I'm going to tap it on the bottom of the cup and again rotate it on the paper towel, and now I'm going to go back to doing the purple. Some of the blue spread into there a little bit. And with watercolor pencils, you do kind of have to go almost in a circular motion to activate the paint. Just going back and forth doesn't always activate it, but you want to be careful that you're not getting it too wet. But it does have to have enough water to actually turn the medium into a paint. And you'll notice that your brush will dry out after you've gone a certain distance, but it's better to have it too dry than too wet. Okay, so again, here I've come to the bottom. I'm going to keep going with the purple, and then I'm going to blend some of the brown. It's a brownish black, a very dark umber brown color pencil that I used. And I'm going to let some of that bleed in to the skin area. Again, dry it off. You don't want it to bleed too much. But if I bring it in, it'll give the face a little bit of a three-dimensional quality. I just bring it in a little tiny bit into the purple on the face. Okay. So now I'm going to do the blue side. And I want to leave a little gap between the hairline and the face. And you'll see that the text disappears even more with the darker color. I do want to blend a little bit of the blue into the purple, so I'm going to do that with the brush really fairly dry. And then I'll do the blue. Now I'm not too worried about bringing too much of the depth of the blue into the purple. I wouldn't want to go over into the purple now because I have a lot of blue on my brush and it would be way too dark. So again, I'm leaving that brown outline and I'm going to blend that later. I'm just really wetting the blue. Kind of a circular motion to get that so it doesn't look streaked. Okay, and then every once in a while I rinse off my brush and get all the blue off of it. It feels like sometimes it gets too much on the brush, and I do want to rinse some of it off so it's not getting too dark. Okay, so here I want to spread the blue over into the purple, but I want to have a clean brush to do it, and then just bring it over a little bit. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is do the brown. I'm going to do the same thing that I've done on the other side with the purple and bring some of that brown into the face. Do her nose there. And you can make this as detailed or as abstract as you like. So I'm making this, it's a little abstract in that the colors are not colors that you normally see on a face. I'm going to rinse my brush and go to the purple here in the ear. And then I'm going to do the hair next. So you'll see, you know, I could have used black, but I like this deep brown color. Again, sort of a circular motion. but also going in the direction that the hair would normally grow. Like I'm not going to go across, I would go up and down for this part of the hair and across at the top. Again, this is called Blackout Poetry because you're making your own poem based on, or, you know, story based on the text that you select out of the page. And, you know, if you want, you could emphasize the text a little bit by going around it with whatever paint happens to be on your brush. Or you can leave it just faint. Depends what it is you like. It's more of a personal choice. I'm going to put a little bit of brown around these. Do the eyebrows. Okay, and I'm going to pick up some of this brown down here, and while it's on my brush, I'll come back up here to get it to go around this text, because I didn't have enough on my brush. And the thing with, you know, the color pencils is, as it dries, sometimes it won't blend anymore. So you want to make sure that you're completing one particular area before you move on to another area. And when you're working on this, you can, you know, when you're looking at the video, you can speed it up or slow it down or pause it as you need to. And you could collage magazine images on top if you wanted. There's any number of possibilities of things you could do with this. But again, I'm not going over this part of the clothing because I want to stay with one color and not mix my brown into this deeper blue that I'm going to have down here. All right. And there's a certain amount of texture depending on what surface you worked on. You may have worked on a rough surface, and if you did, you want to make sure that you're, you know, really rotating the brush in a circular pattern to get rid of that texture if you don't want the texture. If you like the texture, you can just go over it lightly and it'll stay. So now I'm cleaning my brush, and now I'm going to do this blue. It's a different blue than the other blue. And this will really, you know, this gets rid of all the text that you don't want, so that it really emphasizes the words that you've kept in your block out. And then I haven't done the red yet, so you'll notice also that the color gets a lot more intense when you wet it. And you can leave a gap, or you can bring the color right over to the color, like for me, the hairline. It's a good idea when you're working on a surface to put your paper underneath, so you can go right to the edge and not worry about getting it on your table or whatever is underneath. And again, you don't want it to be too wet. If it's too wet, the paper will start to wrinkle. And If that happens, when it's dry, you can put it under a book to flatten it. So I'm rotating the page a little bit so that I can stay on top of my paper towel, and also just for ease of the direction that my hand wants to go. And that's it. And then you can go and put more details in when this is dry. You could go over it with permanent marker. You never want to go over a wet surface with permanent marker because it will just block up the marker, and then the marker will not work. Okay. So I'm just gonna go ahead and layer that a little bit, bring some of the red into the blue, and then I will call it done. So you can see the text on there. Blackout Poetry.